Welcome to the Big 3. I am your host, Melody. And let me tell you, my friends, today's topic is my Big 3 tips for a flawless event space setup. This is something that everyone can use, from corporate events to social events. So I'm going to give you my 3 big ones that I think once you get these in your spirit, your event will start off on the right foot. I have been in the hospitality and events industry for about 29 years. I have a degree in business administration and one in hospitality. And I've, earned my stripes by learning from large brands like the Hilton, DoubleTree, Sheraton, the Marriott. My client portfolio consists of startups as well as major corporations. So I do from grand openings to grand experiential affairs. On the social end of things, I work with people who want to grow their social circle through events, whether it's baby shower, bridal shower, or wedding. And on the corporate side of things, a conference, a seminar, a meeting, a trade show, all of it. That's what I do, and that's how I serve them. The secret sauce for what I do is I listen to what my clients are saying and what they're not saying, what they're expressing that's important to them, and then I help them with that. I act on that, and I blow their mind. They give me great reviews because I take this personally. Event planning runs through my veins, and so that's how I come to serve my clients. Along that end, everyone needs to know how to set up an event space. If you choose not to hire an event planner, then I will give you these 3 tips that's going to start you off right. The first one is to know your program if it's a corporate event. And when I say program, I mean what the day entails. If you're having a seminar, is there going to be a registration section, an AM breakfast? Then there's going to be a speaker. Does a speaker need props and things for what they do? Then is it a situation where people will have workbooks where they'll need to make notes in the workbooks? Is there going to be visuals? That is the program. What's going to happen there? What do you need? What's going to happen? If it's a social event, are you going to have only cocktails? Is it standing rooms like a dance hall party where everyone is just standing around, nobody's sitting? Or is it a formal dinner where you need table, setup, centerpieces? These tables range from 60 inches in diameter to 72 inches in diameter or 72 inches square. Those take up a lot of space. So you have to kind of have an idea what your event's going to be about and what you're going to need. Then once you know your program, what it's about, then you can decide on the elements that you'll need to make the event go off in its basic nature. Like basically, what is the foundation of the items that you will need? Tables, chairs, centerpiece, buffet station. But what if you want to elevate your event and take it to a whole nother level? And at your wedding, entering the reception, you want to have a 12-foot tall person on stilts greeting the guests as they enter. Hey, Jackie. What if you want to have a strolling table? What if you want to have jugglers or some kind of contraption where it's a Cirque du Soleil style and they need a setup to do their twirls and ride the bike across the tight wire, all of that? What if you want to have that at your event? Have that in mind before you decide on the event space. Once you know what your program is about, then that's going to be the key element in helping you find the right event space. So that's number 1. Number 2, and this is mainly for those having an event in a banquet space or hotel or conference center, you ask for a 24-hour hold. And I'll explain why. Hotels and convention centers are designed to maximize space for profit. That's what they sell. They sell the space. So if your meeting ends at 5 o'clock, then they'll try to book an event maybe from 7 until midnight. They're going to try to fill and sell every little gap they can because they want to maximize the revenue. Because as salespeople, we have sales goals, and the owners are expecting a return on investment for having the venue, servicing the venue, and hiring the sales staff. So every little pocket of time that's available, people are going to look to sell it. By asking the hotel or conference center for a 24-hour hold, they are then not able to sell the off hours to other clients. And the off hours are, so your event ends at 5. Between 5 and the next morning at 8 when you start, that's a pocket of time that is sellable to venues. When you ask for a 24-hour hold, they're not able to sell it during that time frame. If you don't ask for it, then they're going to expect you to, as your event ends at 5, to break down by 7 and be out of there so that the new people can come in and do their setup and have their event. And then those people are going to be expected to break down, and then you'll have to come early in the morning, earlier than your 8 o'clock start, to set up. That would mean paying staff to come in early or come in again, paying your audiovisual people to set up again. Everything is again, especially if you have, this applies if you have like a multiple day event. So it saves you money to ask for that 24-hour hold. Be sure to communicate to your venue, if you do have those multi-day events, that you will need that 24-hour hold because your event includes this extensive audiovisual setup. There's going to be easels with things, displays for auction, trade show booths. People are coming the night before to set up their booths. It's a 3-day trade show. It's going to be a hardship for people to set up and break down their booths every day. If you don't ask for it, they for sure will ask you to break down, and they for sure will be trying to sell it. So that's number 2. Ask for a 24-hour hold. The third is make sure your setup time is reasonable. And the setup time entails the hours before the event start, where you will need to put down your tables and your chairs and your linens and your centerpiece and your dance floor if it's a social event. Set up your stage, your backdrops, all of that. Those things take time, especially if you're putting a lot of things on the table that are personalized, and you have to pay attention with name cards and different gifts and I don't know, whatever extra thing you want on the table. It's going to take time unless you have like a herd of staff that's going to swoop down, and in 1 hour with a lot of people working on it, you can accomplish it. But if you don't have a lot of people and you want to maximize the budget, ensure that you at least hold a 4-hour setup time in the contract for the venue space. That's going to give you time to get there. I've set up events for 150 people in 4 hours. That's 14 tables. It only takes a long time if the venue has older chairs and the client is not able to afford any kind of Chiavari or any other chairs, and they just want to use what's at the venue, but they want to cover it with some chair covers and sash. That would mean 140 chair covers, 140 sash. And if you're decorating the sash or doing it in a particular style to make it attractive, you're making a rose, or you're doing it on the slant, or you're adding flowers to it, that's going to take more time. So for sure, a minimum of 4 hours. If you're doing a trade show where you're going to have a large room with booths set up with like pipe and drapes behind each table. They're going to have to be assigned to whatever company or vendor that's going to be selling or displaying their product, and it has to be in a particular location based on what they paid for. All that takes time to set up. So, hey Rev, at minimum, you're going to need a good day or two to set up a trade show area. Because once you enter the convention center, you're going to have a large registration area. And that could mean if it's a basic setup, low budget, they may just have a registration table set up for 5 or 6 people, trash can, pads, pens, and outlets and power strip and all that for laptops. If it's something high end where the client has a bigger budget and they have kiosks that they need to set up, and these are like standing computers with screens, touch screen for people to check in themselves and print their own badge. It's very involved and it's going to need more than a day. Yes, it's going to extend the budget. Yes, you will have to pay for it if you want that feature. So it makes sense to make sure that your setup time is included on the contract. If not, some venues will only give you an hour to set up, and that is absolutely not fair. But the purpose of them having the venue is to sell the space. So if they only include 1 hour of setup time in their contract, then of course they want to sell you more time because they know that the 1 hour time is barely enough, especially if they're not dealing with an event planner who is hip to the game and knows how to get things ready. I've had, gender reveal where the venue was like, you have 1 hour, and the client was like, I can't pay for anything else. So we set up things from before we got there, pulled up the truck, and all we had to do was unload and put down. And within an hour, I had all the vendors there setting up on time. We were done before we were able to take pictures and do a video. But you have to be organized to do that. If you are not an organized person, if you don't have the resources, if you don't have the vendors who are committed to working with you and working with you in excellence, then hire an event planner. That's just a very good tip. That's going to save you some money and embarrassment. Because then if you're not set up on time, and if you're not set up properly, and all the design details that you had envisioned don't come to fruition, then when your guests arrive, you're still setting up. And then they're going to be trying to help you to set up, and then that's embarrassing if you care about that stuff. The second thing is to make sure your breakdown time is also included in the contract. If your setup time takes about 4 hours to happen, then your breakdown time is like an hour, hour and a half, because all you're doing is grabbing things and putting it in trash can, putting things in racks, tossing things in the garbage, packing everything to move away from the venue so that they can be cleaned off site. So at minimum, let's say you have a big event, 200 people, get a minimum of 2-3 hours for your breakdown time. Your setup time for that larger group, a minimum of 5+ hours, depending on how elaborate. Again, it can take longer if you have built a dance floor, if you have lighting set up in the ceiling. It just depends on your event. So those are my 3 tips for flawless event space setup. 1, know your event and make sure you have the right size space for the right number of people and the right type of furniture so that you can get the right space. There are some people who will deliberately rent a smaller event space because then when everyone shows up, it'll look like their event is sold out and booked, and people will be impressed that more people came than was anticipated. But it's a strategy because they want to be perceived as the place to be, so they're going to have less seating, so there's standing room, and then people are going to want to maybe book earlier for the next event because they want to make sure they get a seat. That's a strategy separate than, you know, it's legit, but it's separate than what I'm talking about. The second one is ask for a 24-hour hold. Make sure the hotel holds your space so you don't have to set up and break down every day of your multi-day event. And the third is to make sure that you have enough setup and breakdown time included and paid for in the contract. If you ask for it and you don't pay for it, then you will not get it because it's venue time. Or if you are lucky enough to get a vendor or a venue that doesn't have an event the day before or the day after, they may say, sure, come in, you can have it all day the day before. Then I'll keep my fingers crossed for you on that one. If you need an event planner who's able to find you the right venue, decorate it in excellence, just the way you want it, and blow your mind, give me a call. My number is 754-246-2231, or email me at info@myproeventplanner.